It's Friday, May 30th, 2025.
I just wanted to mention this because it's important. I was recently looking up something about podcasts. I don't know what it was, and I saw a Reddit that was all about what people hate, what podcast people hate, and why they hate them.
This should be good. Go ahead.
And I was so curious because I'm always waiting for someone to mention that they hate us.
Where did you look this up?
It was on Google. And I just saw it, but there's a Reddit, and it's basically. And one of the things that we didn't come up because we're very small fries, but what they did mention
I was going to say
was that they hate podcasts. A lot of people hate podcasts with excessive amounts of banter. And they're like, God, I just want to listen to the show and I want them to talk about the thing they're going to talk about. And I don't need all this banter. And I was sitting there just thinking to myself, well, Jesus Christ, all we do is banter. I was like, we are like the epitome of what these people despise. I was like, I don't
look
even
at this. Right on top of Reddit, our Reddit podcast poster named Dope Dick. Great name. Podcast without banter. It's hard to describe what I mean, but I'm looking for podcasts that aren't just a bunch of friends shooting the shit. Podcasts like Freakonomics, History of Rome, and Strangeville. There's almost a narrative in the podcast structure and edit. It seems like every podcast I find is just a group of friends chit-chatting about their daily lives and loosely discussing the topic at hand. Open to any subject matter.
Yeah, that's us. That's why I was laughing, because I saw it and I was like, oh man. I was like, they're describing us. Shit.
Wow. Somebody said, here's a clue. Go for ones that only have one host. Yeah,
well, you can't banter with yourself. But you know what? Maybe you can.
Yes, you can, but there's probably less of it,
the schizophrenic podcast.
That's amazing.
So, we've been making a horrible podcast now for years, apparently.
Yeah, I don't care.
So.
I don't care.
It's okay. I have a funny theory about not just this show, but in general. I was reading an article recently about how, as every year goes by, they take this survey to basically about like men and the number of like close friendships they have, and they find that as time goes on, the number of close friends that men have is seemingly, at least in the United States and the UK. It seems to be going down. Like every decade or so, they're dropping. The men seem to be having less and less close friends, acquaintances, people that they chat throughout the day. But close friends, the number is going down, and the kind of theories that are being thrown around is that it's being replaced with, to some degree, the internet, social media. Also, there isn't the time because, somehow we're entering this age where there is more time and yet no time to do anything. And then at the same time, there is this kind of weird toxic masculinity that's coming into the picture that's telling people, friends don't cry with each other. Friends tell each other to fucking suck it up and be a man, that type of thing. And it's fascinating to me because I think that you and I are definitely not, we definitely are not manly men. We're not, what these types of people would refer to as alphas or any of that shit. And yet we're both happily married. Shut the fuck up! We're both happily married men. And I feel that we have more of like an Aragorn friendship, which is one of the things I love about Lord of the Rings, is that when something emotional happens to the Fellowship of the Ring, people do cry, people do weep, people do become emotionally, what's the word that Spock uses? Compromised, emotionally compromised, right? I mean, Aragorn, who is a fucking badass, he weeps at the death of his friends. Do you know what I mean? And so it's interesting.
Oh yeah, when Boromir dies, that was Sean. Yeah. That's one of the great scenes in the whole series, and he's laying on top of him with his forehead to his forehead.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm sure that people, what you're referring to, by the way, is what's referred to as the manosphere, which is one of the more horrifically stupid things I've ever heard of, but it is accurate.
Well, either way.
The manosphere would react very viscerally negatively to saying, that must mean that you like to, eat your, sandwich with a sausage instead of peanut butter or whatever term they'd want to use. But yeah, it seems like that will set off alarm bells for them.
You and I are more, I think, we're more of a fellowship type of friendship. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that if someone listens to this show, and maybe they listen to this show, I think because they enjoy the idea of two people who are, we're not. We can't bust each other's balls, but also, we're willing to talk about the full realm of human existence and the full emotional range of it.
Sure.
So, and we're willing to be sensitive about things that are worth being sensitive about. I mean, I don't understand what the end game to a lot of this. I guess I see what you want to call it, the manosphere. I don't understand what the end game to that is, because they seem like kind of a bunch of assholes, and
I can tell you what the end game is. It's the idealized white male version of like a 1930s, Leave It to Beaver. The submissive wife who does whatever the man says. The man runs the show. White men run everything. And
and that's the thing is, what I was reading is that's evolving now. They don't want Leave It to Beaver. They want one man with a smorgasbord of women who are willing to share him because he's so amazing. This is getting into almost Nazi Uberbench territory.
So let me tell you the dirty little secret of that. That's what they say on the surface, but the reality is none of these people would share a woman.
No.
Because there is no.
They want the women. They want a group of women to share them. They don't want to share the women with anybody.
It wouldn't work because
of course
what I'm saying is the secondary layer is the only way that would work is if each of those women was never allowed to talk to one another. They would have to be siloed.
Oh yeah, the
because
last thing.
There's the risk that they might start talking about the man
unionize against you.
Correct.
That's the last thing you
want. That's what I'm saying
right?
is they say that, but the reality is none of them actually want that. What they want is there's a line in Parks and Rec in I think the first season where the Ron Swanson character says something about that the government should be one guy in a room who can press the button to launch the nukes, and women are brought to him when he desires them. And I think that's what they think. That's what they want, is to simply do whatever, whenever they like, with no consequence, repercussion, or responsibility. That's what they want.
Interesting.
Which, okay. Good luck.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem sustainable.
You think? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah. Are you suggesting that this is a fallible concept?
Yeah, there was a really great article I read at one point. About a man who is like, the guy who wrote the article was writing about this kind of like world, and he happened to meet a guy who was already kind of like neck deep in it, who was willing to talk to him about it. And what was really sad about the article was the guy who was getting into it, not the writer, but the guy who was getting into it. He already had what sounded like a really nice life. He had designed an app, he had sold it, he'd made a ton of money, he had like an apartment in London, and he had, he had all the things that successful people seem to have, and he bought a house for his parents and like all this stuff. I mean, he seemed like an okay guy, but then he kind of got sucked into this idea that there was this better version of maleness.
Did he discover something online and that led to it?
Oh no, and he would basically go to all these dating kind of like lectures where they would like bring you in, and they were like, there was an exercise in there that was really interesting where they were trying to get people over the awkwardness of the dating scene. And what was weird is that the guy who was being sucked into this, he didn't seem to have a problem getting girls. His problem was that he seemed to want to become one of these guys that just girls threw themselves at endlessly, right? It wasn't enough that he got women. It said he wanted to get it was like he wanted to get all the women. But some of the exercises, this one like group he paid for, where like you had to yell at each other from across an intersection, like on a busy day.
All right, hold on. I want to make sure I understand this. So was the idea that he would still be in a stable relationship with whoever? But then every woman that he walked by would spin their head around at him?
No, he just wanted women to be throwing themselves at him, and he wanted to have like a literally like a harem of women who wanted him. That he could just pick and choose whenever he felt like it. Yeah. And he thought,
Italian?
Hey, listen. I've been to Italy. Italian women do not let themselves get thrown around like that. No. It's a good thing that Italian men are the way they are, because Italian women are the way they are, and it's kind of like the counter to each other.
No, you're correct.
Yeah. Italian women will fucking kick your ass. Granted, the Italian men will fight back, so it's a fair fight. But yes.
Well, there are Italian men who enjoy being threatened by women, so we do exist.
Yeah, I suppose so. So yeah, and this guy went to this. I mean, he paid for this group, and this guy was basically telling him, oh, this is how to be a better man, and I understand the logic of trying to get over the awkwardness of asking a woman out, but the thing is, this guy already seemed to be over that, so I don't understand why he was almost like retreading this territory. They had another one where you had to start a conversation with a stranger, but it had to be like you had to only speak gibberish to them and see how long you could keep it going. And it was supposed to kind of get over the awkwardness of being social when you know that it's kind of going to be like a failure of a conversation. And then the last part of it was that they had to simulate sex with a lamppost in public. And the description of this is amazing, because the writer was talking to the guy about it, and the guy was saying how it's like, you're simulating like having sex with this thing, and the instructor is kind of walking down the street because it's a bunch of guys all having sex with different lampposts, and he's like, have no fear. He's like, come on, get into it. And in the middle of this, the guy who was doing it, he got a call from his mother that his grandfather had died. And like it just sounds like such a psychotic situation to be in at that moment. But again, I guess they're just trying to get over the awkwardness. And I know that there are men out there who it's the fear of rejection. You feel very awkward, talking to a woman. I get it. There was a period of my life where I was afraid to ask women out because I didn't want the no, But then I got to a point in my life where I was like, you know what? If I don't ask, nothing will happen. And the worst thing they can say is no. But that's the worst thing that can happen. It's like, that's the only thing that can happen. They can't beat me. They can't take anything from me that I don't have. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, the only thing it takes away from me, I guess, is the hope that they'd say yes. But if they're going to say no, then you move on to the next thing. You keep looking. So I think I got over that. Like mid-college. And it's not a... But it's not a no fear thing. It's just if you don't risk, there's never going to be a reward. So I understand this idea that there's people who want to get over their own sense of fear of the risk. But having sex with a telephone post, or simulating sex with a telephone post, because I'm sure somebody out there actually has a fetish for that. Simulating sex with a telephone. I mean, I guess it's kind of, I just feel like there must be a better way to get over your fear. And the thing is, this whole becoming a mastery of women thing, this is not new. And I mean, I remember years ago, we had a friend, more my friend, who he had a dating manual. Now, to be fair, he didn't buy it. He was, quote unquote, borrowing it from a friend, right? And I remember glancing through this book, which was a printout on like 3-ring paper and like a folder. It wasn't even like a proper book. It was like a printout in a binder, which is weird. That always screams high quality. And I just remember there was a thing in there that was like, create a mystery about yourself, that lures women in. And I'm like, yeah, but what happens when then we realize there is no mystery? Like it's all about basically not being you. But then
isn't meeting somebody inherently got a mystery? You don't know them.
Yeah, but you know what? How many men do you know who are married to women that they don't really know and they are generally unhappy with? Where they're happiest when they're not with their wives. They're happiest with them when they're with their friends.
A disturbing number.
A disturbing amount, right? And
I've said this before. I have always been shocked by, over the years, people I've worked with who wanted to go on training things somewhere else just to
get
be away from my wife for a week, and I'm like, I don't understand you. I don't understand
my wife. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I don't want to be away.
And what was weird about this friend with the dating manual, right? This is a guy that in college he was a pretty good looking guy. Girls really dug him. Like this was a guy who inadvertently ended up having a threesome. Not that he went looking for it. Not that he planned it. Nothing. 2 women wanted him to be involved in a threesome with them. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of guy he was. He was very lucky and he was like good looking and he was a cool guy. And like, I just look at him and I go, why do you feel you need this? And it wasn't even like he was like.
Well, I understand that because you're confusing 2 things.
Yeah.
You can. There are many what would be considered undeniably great-looking actors.
He never had trouble finding a date.
Well, no, and neither did any of these people. Yet they have said, "I've struggled with body dysmorphia because I fixate on this one thing." So, for all you know, that guy
you're saying it's
had,
some kind of,
I don't know, a small lump on his abdomen that no one else would notice, and yet when he looked in the mirror, it's all he could see.
Yeah.
You never know the internal fixations of people, so.
Yeah, where it's like, listen, I look in the mirror and I think to myself, that's all you got. And I'm surprised when women in my life have had an interest in it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, and I'm the same way, but that's what I mean.
When I always say to my wife, I'm like, oh, you poor thing. You're stuck with me. But then you know what? Yeah. She has the same thing. She looks in the mirror and she's like,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is, because somebody on the surface level seems like they've got it all put together and they're having no problems, doesn't mean they're not having any problems.
Oh, I wasn't saying that he had no problems. I just looked at him and I thought, I don't think you need this. Like, this manual.
To you, he didn't, but in his mind, he obviously thought he did for some reason.
Well, I know. Is it this manual? It just had a whiff of massive dishonesty.
For all you know, he would fart at climax every time. You don't know what's actually going on. Maybe he was lucky, and it was both silent and
deadly, silent
odorless.
And deadly.
But he could feel the propulsion of his butt and know that it happened. And
maybe he needed threesomes to make sure that he could blame it on one of the others.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there is a logic to that. I understand.
But either way, it's a strange layout to me, and it just feels like people seem to be steeping themselves deeper and deeper in kind of subterfuge and dishonesty, when it feels like people should just be.
Okay, yes, that's obviously
honest.
what it is. It is the inability to properly evaluate yourself. It's a subset of everybody's got it wrong but me. Right?
I suppose.
It's a portion of that.
But I think it also, there's a level of trying to turn it into some kind of a capitalist. You're trying to turn it into a similar sort of capitalist function. Like you're turning women into a commodity that you want to have access to as many as you can.
Of course, because that's an easy way to take the emotion, the ambiguity, the intimacy out of it. Is you turn somebody into a number. That's
and
classic.
What is the point without the intimacy? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's plenty of fake women out there who are looking for a fake dude to have an amazing Instagram relationship with.
Because for these individuals, they're convincing themselves that
that'll make everything
intimacy is a number that they can achieve. I can be with 10 women at once, therefore I win.
That's
not, am I actually with someone?
That's
that's what it is.
But it's to me. I look at that and I think, man, that is like there's no hope in that experience.
No, of course, but that's because you don't have that part of yourself broken. Yeah. You're not broken that way. We're all broken in different ways. You and I are not broken that way.
I suppose.
We don't look at other humans and think I will rule over them in some way, and therefore I am fulfilled.
Yeah. I guess I just don't see that.
Because it's a fallacy. They won't be fulfilled. That's the thing. Is there's never going to be enough.
No, they'll never be fulfilled, no matter how much they get. I mean, maybe that's the problem. This is why I don't generally like religions, but I do like a lot of the stuff that Buddhism gets after, because Buddhism has.
Well, here, by the way, just before we move off this is something else that, if you actually game this all the way out, right, they're not even thinking about what the end result of what they're talking about be. Let's say, for the sake of argument, let's say that 100 years from now, all that is left are the alpha males and their 10 to 30 women each. Let's go ahead and let's calculate that.
You know what? I should write that post-apocalyptic novel. Oh,
you really should. But and let's say that all of the weaker men, you and I, those of us who do not understand what the dominance and winning looks like, have died off of our weakness, have regressed ourselves into the muck and have been dispatched with, or in the copper mines, whatever. And so only this ruling class of ripped, Thor-like beings,
ripped Supermen with their 12 sports cars, eating protein out of a barrel,
sucking protein packets as their perfect 10 harem moisturize their thighs in the desperate hope that they shall be able to surmount, Vesuvius that evening, whatever. In that end goal state, they will all have to then kill each other until there's only one left, because there's not that many women in the world. You cannot have 10 to 20 women per guy.
Yeah. There could only be one at that point,
So at the end, what they want to be Conan. That's what they want to be, Conan.
First off, they don't want to be Conan, because at no point does Conan stop and look in the mirror and go, I'm the alpha fucking male. No, Conan would
Whoa. That's what you think. These guys would say, yes, he does. Conan has a full understanding of himself. He is the alpha male. You are making the mistake of thinking these people think rationally.
Yeah, no.
Do you think they actually have ever read a Conan story, or do they look at Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie and that's it for them?
Which is hilarious, because when you watch that movie and that scene where he tries to cover the woman, where you realize that he wants the warrior woman, he doesn't want some weak woman that he can own. I mean, that's in both those movies, that is a common theme. I mean, if anything, what does he try? He loses the warrior woman because she dies saving him in the first one, and then the second one, he does everything because he wants to get her back. I always forget that detail, that the reason he helps the witch is because he thinks that she, using the demon's magic, can bring back Valeria. Right? So it's
it is as a sub-tangent, it is a shame that movie isn't better at that part of it, because that is, like you said, I think most people don't even remember that.
Because that is the longing from the first movie still there. Yeah. So, you are correct. I know there is an unsubstantial logic to all of it, right?
Right. That's the thing.
And but what I was going to say was, I don't generally like religions, but I do like a lot of the stuff that Buddhism gets after, because Buddhism has this idea of, it's not about constantly striving for, these endless goals, but to some degree, it's about kind of toning it back and going, I don't need that much. I don't need all that desire. I don't mean, and some of it feels, it's funny how, going too far in either direction just leaves you with unhappiness. If you have nothing, right? But if you have too much, right? But if you learn to be able to just be content, and kind of like celebrate kind of in that middle zone, no, you may not be some kind of alpha ubermensch, but you may be happy. You may be content with the world. It's like, having read almost all of Conan, right? the Conan was most unhappy when he became king. In fact, when old Conan, that's one of the great short stories, when old Conan almost loses his kingdom, it's when he suddenly remembers the shit that made him happy, which was just fucking being busy. Staying busy.
If you remember,
sailing, robbing, thieving, women, like drinking, just going and living his life. And honestly, being fucking a warrior, a nomad seemed to be a much happier existence for him than being a king.
The end of the first movie, when they show Arnold on the throne, he looks despondent.
Yeah, he doesn't look happy.
He doesn't look happy.
No, he's grim.
Yeah.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because Valeria's dead and gone.
Well, yeah, he has it all, yet he doesn't have what he wants.
I always felt he should have ended up with Grace Jones at the end of the second one.
Oh, I would have been fine with that.
She was more his type. And then they flirted the whole princess thing, and you're like, no, that is not his type. He has. I love that at no point does he have any interest in her throughout that movie.
Yeah, I'm by the way very, very, very regretful that you have pointed out that there is a Reddit for podcasting, because I'm getting lost in these lunatic threads.
Oh, you got to put it away. You got to put it away. I mean, now.
Some of the stuff these people are talking about is just.
It's weird.
I mean, Reddit in general is very weird.
Yes. But we as a species are very weird. You know, and I do wonder sometimes.
Looking for podcasts about people with extreme mental illness. Not me. No, thank you.
I do sometimes wonder if our weird is what's keeping us from that kind of Universe 25 tip point, right?
Yeah.
Because like the whole alpha male thing does kind of have a stink of like the beautiful ones from the Universe 25 experiment. You know, the ones that would just preen themselves and just be like, I am beautiful, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a disconnect from reality, which is why I do worry that at some point we're heading towards a world war. A world war seems to be that resets things in the world, where, you know, suddenly it's like people get an idea of what's actually important when, you know, all hell breaks loose. But you know what? You know that movie, Don't Look Up?
Yeah, the climate change one with
where it's not climate change, it's the meteor.
Oh right, yeah. Sorry, meteor.
Where it's going to hit the Earth, and then they're just arguing over all this inane shit.
ScarJo and what's his face in it? And
whatever.
That?
So,
DiCaprio,
but at the end, the rich and the powerful make a ship and go to like a different planet, right?
Yeah.
And one of the last scenes in that movie is basically they go to this other planet and they get out of the ship, and as they get out of the ship, they're like, "Oh, another world, a paradise for us," and then they suddenly get attacked by like the local wildlife, which just like rips them apart. What's his name? I think it's Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill is like the president's son or assistant or something. I can't remember what it was, but he pulls out his phone and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm the last survivor of the human race." And he's recording himself and he's like, "Remember to like and subscribe." And it's like this last like little bit of just fucking, yeah, okay. That's why we don't get to survive. I get it now. You know, it's like, how far does that go? You know, when you are the last human in existence, and you don't realize at that moment that, you know, there's no one left to like and subscribe. That shit doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry that I totally derailed us from your introduction.
No, that's. Did I have an introduction? Oh yeah, I did. Oh yeah, right. I never did actually get it done. That's right. Yeah. So.
Stop looking at the Reddit.
I know. I am getting, because there's ones. You know what? I'll tell you what. This is outside just even the podcasting one. One of the things that's fun about Reddit, if you ever want to do this, because this is a fun kind of very, very peaceful, but also highly internally amusing thing to do, where you can play kind of armchair detective, is to go through and look for the people who actually have a fetish and are trying not to disclose it, but are disclosing it in their question. For example, female Australian ? In the podcast Reddit. I love female Australian accents. Can you recommend any shows where there are women who speak with this accent? I know what they're looking for. Got it. Like, they don't, not a topic, Not any specifically anything else. Just female Australian accents. Buddy, I'm with you, but I'm saying you're not covering that up as well as you think.
You know what? Was it? I actually like the sound of was it Scarlett Johansson's voice?
Sure.
And she did an audiobook of was it Alice in Wonderland?
No. Look, this is not me. I'm not kink shaming. I'm just saying.
We like the things that we like, and I think it's the other thing too. Is like, I think a lot of the manosphere thing is an element of shame.
Absolutely.
They're trying to create these roles, and they're like, if you like this, then you should be ashamed of yourself. And it's like, I don't think that you should have
what
shame.
They're looking for is 80% of everybody else to say, no, we all like that. And he could be like, oh, me too. Good grief. I was just looking for other people
isn't it like the Republicans that are like, gay people should be burned at the stake, and then you find out
the
that they're
family values
gay.
guys who consistently somehow end up being,
and you're like, why
in bathrooms, just helping guys out of their pants, and stuff like that.
Why do you hate yourself so much? Yeah.
Because, you know why. Because they were raised thinking they should.
Yeah. So I think that as long as what you like doesn't hurt anyone, then I don't think you'd have a shame about it. I think you should.
As long as nobody is harmed in a non-consensual way.
Yes.
Remember, some people want some pain, so that's fine.
Well, yes, but then you have to say for it. But you know what? Listen, I was talking to my mother the other day, and we were talking about bad people, and I said that. I have evolved enough that I don't think I was like, I don't even think I give a shit anymore about necrophiliacs. And she was like, what? And I'm like, well, the dead are dead. I was like, I don't even give a crap about them anymore. I was like, you want to have sex with dead bodies? That's not bothering me. Look, and she's like, but what if it's somebody that you used to love? I'm like, they're dead. Like, and I realized there's in my mind, there's almost like a time frame thing on it. Like, how long does somebody have to be dead before I'm no longer upset that someone has broken in and had sex with their corpse? But in my mind, it's like, but they're dead. They're not there anymore. And I wonder if it's tied into the whole religious thing of the body, like the body, the body is the person.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I asked my wife the other day if she could have my body but a different consciousness in it, right? Or she could have my consciousness but in a completely different body. I was like, which would she prefer? Which would be more me for her? And she was like, I would take you in a different body.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, cool. Because I think there's people out there that would take the body.
Yes. There absolutely are people.
So I'm not saying, so what I'm saying is like,
about what they value in the person that they, quote, love, end quote.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to go have sex with a dead body, I'm at that point in my life where I look at that and go, you're not bothering me. You're not bothering anybody else. Just, I guess don't be obvious about it.
Well, there is one. Okay.
Yeah.
As long as the person whose body it is and whoever loves them is okay with it, because
Well, that's why I was saying the whole time frame thing, where it's like how long after someone dies is it?
It should almost be like a donor card where you can say okay for necrophilia and just check.
God, that'd be hilarious. I'm an organ donor, and it's okay for necrophiliacs.
Yeah, I'm a necro donor. What would that?
A necro donor.
Yeah, that's fine.
God, that's hilarious.
Because honestly, I mean, this would be a question for my wife, but she just ran out to the store. I'm kind of curious, because this is such a tricky one because it gets into. Because I would imagine that my wife would say if I was dead, she wouldn't care what anybody did with my body. But then again, I think she is more spiritual than I am, even if she's not religious.
So she thinks she'd be more attached or less attached to your body?
I think she'd be more attached to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because to me, I'm like,
either way.
Once I'm dead, in my mind, nothing ever happens after that. So I literally don't. You could dump me in a landfill, and what the hell do I care? You're not disrespecting me because I don't care anymore.
I'm gone. Yeah, I'm gone now.
Yeah, it's a shell now.
Oh yeah, what is that movie where they leave the body, and they're like, you can't just leave him there? And they said, no, we can't. There's nothing we can do. Oh, you know what? Fucking Quantum of Solace, where he puts the guy's body in the dumpster.
Oh, right. The
guy who saved him. And it's like, it's so heavy, but it's like, he's dead.
It is.
There's nothing you can do for him now.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
he finds him. He hides he throws.
He
him in a
has
dumpster.
to. Yeah, he has to. Or it's all blown. You know, and I know that there's this respect you want to give the dead, but I think you give the respect to your dead loved ones in your head. I think that we want to give a respect to this corporeal nature, but it depends, I guess, on where you think the seat of the soul is or whatnot. I don't know.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think if the person
if they have demands.
My
please
mother
don't let
believes
necrophiliacs get to my body. There you go.
Well, not even just that, but like my mother believes in heaven. So I wouldn't say I don't feel like paying for her to have a burial because there's no point. Because she thinks there's a point.
Yeah.
And on the 0.0 to times 50 million, 1% chance she's right.
Yeah.
I don't want to screw her over because I don't believe in it. She could be right. I don't know.
Oh, listen, it's an endless universe. There's always a possibility of something.
That's what I'm saying. So I wouldn't want her to be angry at me from wherever. On the
but the thing is, if tomorrow you read an article,
the back of the solar centipede or whatever.
But if tomorrow you read an article that some guy went into a cemetery and dug up a bunch of bodies that have been dead for 20 years and did some weird sexual shit with them, I mean, would you in this climate? Would you even look at that and be like, so? That's like the least horrible thing you can do at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it really wouldn't. Even if it was like, I don't know, my father or something, I don't think I'd really care because I'm like, he's been dead for 15 fucking years now. I think two possibilities exist. One, he's been hanging out wherever the afterlife is for long enough not to care what his body's doing, and I have not encountered.
God. Could you imagine? I mean, if there is an after whatever, could you imagine your father getting, being somewhere in the afterlife and suddenly getting a telegram being like, somebody is having sex with your body?
Oh, I think he'd laugh his head off.
And showing up there, like, in the spirit realm, watching us going, what the fuck is this? What the hell are you doing?
Right.
Like,
that's
absurd,
what I think the reaction was. Yeah, it is. It's lunacy. But the thing is, like I said, after a certain amount of time, and maybe this is the expiration date or whatever you're referring to. I think there is a point where you're sitting there going, that person has either moved on
from this realm.
I guess there's three possibilities. One is there is nothing, so who cares? That's the default.
Yeah.
Two is they've moved on and it's been long enough that they don't care anymore, because I have never come across a version of religion that says if your body is desecrated, you somehow get sucked back into it to the earthly realm. Like, I've never seen anything that says that. So...
actually,
the worst case would be the third one where suddenly you're haunted.
Don't the Native Americans have that? Isn't that why you can't desecrate holy land?
Is it that you come back, or is it that you get haunted?
Oh man, because I know that.
See, because that's the third. The third possibility is you invoke a phantasm or a poltergeist or whatever. In which case,
wouldn't that be a thing? Yeah, you know what? Listen. You have just proven to me.
That's poltergeist. They desecrated the buried. Actually, that's what it was. It was Native Americans.
I realize now why I don't believe in ghosts. Because necrophiliacs don't get haunted. Think about it. I mean,
okay. Well, hold on. There's one slight kind of loophole out of that, which is, in transmuting to the next plane, you might not care anymore because you realize that the earthly shell is literally only that, and you are now existing in spiritual. Disneyland. So who cares?
Basically, you're saying if they're enlightened dead, then they won't care. But I mean, there's got to be one pissed off corpse someplace that didn't like the fact that it got desecrated by a necrophiliac.
Well, then that's.
But I never read about necrophiliacs being haunted. In fact, you know what? That must be such a weird mindset.
Stop. Do you think that in the middle of a haunting, they're going to say, oh, you know what it is? You know what it is? I dug that guy up a year ago and I fucked him in the mouth. That's what this is. Never mind.
No, but hear me out, right? It must be so weird, right? So the idea of digging up a grave, right, to me is scary. I don't know why, but there's like a creepy factor to it, right? You go in at night, you dig. Yeah, you've seen this in movies where they go and they dig a grave up and they're like, it's creepy, right? The idea of a person who doesn't have the creep factor, where that's all.
Is that how it usually happens, or is it more like morticians do it?
I don't know, but I'm trying. In my mind, I'm just imagining someone who's digging a grave up, going, "Oh shit, you're gonna put yourself on a list."
Oh, come on. I'm already on a list. Wow. They came up with a famous painting of it. That's interesting. Called The Hatred by Pietro Paglietta.
Jesus.
1896. Okay. Various terms for the crime of corpse violation. Oh, wow. That's a much better term for
violation. See that?
Corpse violation.
Yeah.
That's show title, almost. But it is within the category of the destructive madmen that one needs to situate certain patients to whom... Whoa, Jesus. The alienist, this is getting way philosophical. Hold on. How does it usually happen? Humans. Okay. Here's a great opening line. Speaking of opening a line for a book. Necrophilia is often assumed to be rare, but no data for its prevalence in the general population exists. Period. Meaning, we don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you talk about shame. I don't know how many people are going to self-report as a corpse fucker.
A persistent attraction to corpses and pseudo-necrophiliacs.
And the thing is,
opportunity
I don't know enough
transient interest.
I don't know enough about necrophilia to say, is it something where the body has to be a certain level of freshness, or is it like...
Here you go.
Yeah.
57% of what were classified as genuine necrophiliacs, there's a sentence that's going to haunt me for a little bit, had occupational access to corpses, with morgue attendants, hospital orderlies, and cemetery employees being the most common jobs.
Oh, well, there you go. So it has to be veritably fresh. Like
I think that's the key.
It's not digging up some bones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's it. And that falls into that whole... When is it not a valuable person anymore? When do you no longer care about that body? When is it no longer a violation?
Well, here, listen to this.
Yeah.
In one report of a sample of 34 genuine necrophiliacs, man, that word genuine is really sticking with me. 68% were motivated by a desire for a non-resisting and non-rejecting partner. Guess what, Manospheres? I found your solution. Work in a cemetery.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you just circled
Now, this is the one that's actually very, very sad.
Okay.
21% were motivated by the want of a reunion with a lost partner. That's just sad.
And that is a non-ending connection to the body.
Yeah. That I kind of go, all right, yeah,
there's a sadness to that, isn't there?
There's a deep sadness to that.
Yeah.
Let's see. 15% were motivated by sexual attraction to dead people, generally, I guess. 15% motivated by a desire for comfort or to overcome feelings of isolation, which sounds like it's related to the first one, non-rejection. 12% were motivated by a desire to remedy low self-esteem by expressing power over a corpse. Is that really going to give you that much of a boost? They're dead. But okay, fine.
Yeah, but you know what? But it looks and feels like a person. I mean, it's better than simulating sex with a lamppost, right?
Would you like to hear the less common motives? There's a list.
Oh, please, by all means.
Unavailability of a living partner. Real doll solves that, but okay. Compensation for fear of women. Manosphere. Belief that sex with a living woman is a mortal sin. Now, it does not
is that
reference...
a fucking loophole that I didn't know about?
I didn't even think such a thing was real.
Is that not a sin? I thought that in the Christian mythology, having sex with the dead would be worse. Holy shit. Hold on one second. Oh my God.
I see. Oh, no, I see what this is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did a search for that to see what would come up.
Yeah.
And what I think they're referring to is if you're not married. So it's an extreme form of if you're not married, sex is a mortal sin. I doubt that's a mainstream belief. But
hold on.
You know, yeah.
I'm trying to pose this question correctly.
By the way, everybody, just as an aside, if you want to support our show as we talk about necrophilia, go to supportourshow.com. There's your lead.
Okay, so
why not drop it in the necrophilia segment?
Yeah. So while the Bobby, Jesus Christ,
the Bobby.
Sorry. Oh man, sorry, the Bobby. Yeah,
I'm sorry, but you have just crowned the show title Necrobobby. Go ahead.
Okay, hold on. Oh,
we have now talked about this long enough. I must put it as one of the tags. God damn it.
While the Bible does not explicitly mention necrophilia, the act of having sexual relations with a dead body the principles and laws within the scripture strongly suggest that it would be considered a grave sin. There is a requirement for respect for the dead that's in the Bible, right? They think that Leviticus 18 lists a wide range of forbidden sexual acts, and while necrophilia isn't specifically named, the underlying principle is the sanctity of the human body and the need for sexual expression to be with a moral context. Let's see. Corinthians 6:18 urges believers to flee from sexual immortality, highlighting the importance of personal purity and ethical treatment of one's own body and the bodies of others. And I don't know what else to say. So there's a lot of insinuation, but at no point does it say directly that it's a... oh, God, man, that's a funny loophole. This is like those kids when you were in high school that were like, anal sex is not a sin.
Right.
Remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God,
well,
is there someone...
let me finish off this list because there's at least two in
running
here
around
that
out
I
there
think...
that thinks that necrophilia is the way you get around premarital... the sin of premarital sex?
Okay. You know the answer to that is yes.
Oh, my God.
You know the answer to that is yes.
I never even conceived of that.
With the amount of people on this planet and the perverse ways that human self-justification works, it's not just one person, it's probably a bunch. But in any event, moving on from that fascinating one, need to achieve a feeling of total control over a sexual partner. Manosphere. Now, these next two are almost comedy. Compliance with a command hallucination. Okay, so something's telling you to do it. Okay, got it. Fine.
Okay, but hold on. That doesn't count. Because if you're having a hallucination and you don't exactly know what it is you're doing, that's a whole other problem.
That's what I'm saying. So that really doesn't even count. This one feels like something that individuals we have encountered in our lives I could almost see happening. Performance of a series of destructive acts. In other words, because everybody will be shocked by it. Okay. Here's the next one. Expression of polymorphous perverse sexual desires. I don't even know what the fuck that means.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that means either.
Hold on, it's got a link. Polymorphous perversity. Oh my God, these are great. Oh, guess who came into this one? Sigmund Freud's descriptive term for the non-specific nature of childhood sexuality in its primordial form. I'm not reading any more of that. Okay. Need to perform, this is the final one, need to perform limitless sexual activity, a.k.a. I am going to fuck everything.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, how else do you read that? That is literally somebody who's like, I will fuck every single thing I can put myself into or that I can put into myself.
I'm going to dip my balls in it, right?
Exactly. Now, the final thing I'll read from this, because I actually thought of this, and I was wondering if it had ever happened, and apparently it has. At least one case has been documented of someone having sex with a corpse motivated by the dead person's wishes. A woman in Zimbabwe had sex with her deceased husband's body under the influence of his wishes, documented in his will.
Yeah.
And the influence of family members persuading her to fulfill his wishes. There is the one case where somebody literally said, I want that.
And is that because, I wonder if that was because there's a certain period of time after a man has died where they are still, their sperm is still viable? Did you know that?
Well, here is the actual news article from, does this have a date? 2014. Woman has sex with dead husband in public as per his last will. Carried out her estranged deceased husband's last wish by having sex with his body before burial. Okay, so it was recent. In the note left behind, the individual wrote that he died of a broken heart when his wife left him and wished that he would have sex with him one last time before he was buried.
Oh my God, so she had sex with her ex-husband.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Wow.
The necrophilia part is weird. But the fact that it's her ex, like, they broke up. That's strange.
Wow, yeah. Huh. Man. Although a relative said they opened the coffin. I'm not going any further. Oh, wait. Relatives say the dead man was able to perform quite satisfactorily, calling it angel lust. I don't believe that. Okay. I mean, I don't think the body can respond after that long. I don't, unless it was 15 minutes after we went under, but I doubt
Hold on one second. No, because there is actually a weird thing about this. Is one of the things that's weird outside of necrophilia. There's a weird thing about working with dead bodies or being around dead bodies, which is that because the body is slowly breaking down, there's a lot of stuff that happens after people have died. Like there's muscle spasms, bodies can do things like this. I honestly believe that a lot of the fear of ghosts and zombies and stuff derives from this. But like, dead bodies can sit up, dead bodies can move. There's a lot of electricity in there that's still working its way out. So
I guess if it was recent enough, then it would make sense.
So hold on, I'm going to ask a question that's probably going to put me on a list.
I will tell you now, I am done with this topic as far as my web searches go, because
hold on.
I'm waiting for my phone to just erupt with, or somebody to knock on the door any minute. Like, what are you?
Holy shit! Okay, a man can still ejaculate for up to. Can you guess how many hours after death?
Hours.
Hours. Yeah.
I'm going to say 8.
36.
Wow.
A man can still ejaculate for up to 36 hours after death, and viable sperm can be retrieved up to 3 days after death.
Yeah. Okay.
However, the chance of successful sperm retrieval and fertilization decreases significantly with time after death, with the best chances within the first 24 hours. So isn't that, But now I'm curious, what was it? Weird things the body can do after death. Because I remember when I did my whole study on death and dying in college for psychology, we talked to several morticians, and they were saying how you get used to these things that happen in the body, that the dead are far more active than you realize. They don't just lay there. So yeah, here you go. There's things like muscle twitching.
I knew. I would not have guessed a day and a half.
Yeah, well, yeah, Jesus Christ. But yeah, muscle twitching, gas expulsion, noises like moans due to the release of trapped air and gases.
Yeah. That's a classic one. That's a classic one. Yeah.
For a short period after death, some cells, particularly in the brain, muscle, and skin, may continue to function, although the brain's activity is generally limited after a few minutes without oxygen. Brain surges. Studies have shown that brains may experience a sudden surge of electrical activity shortly after death, sometimes exceeding levels seen during normal waking states. How's that for fucking weird? And then in a cool, damp environment, the body's fat can transform into a waxy, soap-like substance called grave wax, which can preserve the body for a prolonged period. Interesting. Wow. So yeah, I still think... Like, I'm not spiritual, but I still think that being in a morgue full of dead bodies would be creepy. Only because you look at them as being inanimate. It's weird because you're looking at something that you're used to being inanimate, and yet then when it does something that's basically built around the breakdown of the body, it scares the shit out of you.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Well, I'm glad we've spent the first hour of our banter on a lot of this.
Their fucking banter.
We will now be an answer to, hey, are there any podcasts that talk about necrophilia in detail? Why, yes.
Yeah.
I recently heard a pair of fucking demented sickos talking about this for a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, it's a thing that happens in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a balance to our, conversation about movie and medias and otherwise,
Boy, is it.
So
if anybody says we don't ever talk about anything other than movies, don't we?
Well, I do have a movie review for you. That's weird.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
There was a movie called Necrophilia. If you say that, I'll fucking die right here. Go ahead.
No. This is far more conventional than that. Don't worry.
What a shame.
It is and it isn't, but it is a conventional movie. So I finally watched the third Venom.
Everything's going to be conventional compared to that. Go on.
So I finally watched the third Venom movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
I put it off for a while. My kids wanted to see it like crazy. I put it off for a while because I had read very mixed reviews.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I watched it before we did our joint movie thing. And I've been thinking about it for a while. I didn't. It's funny because we watched the other movie, so I stopped thinking about it, and then it crept back into my brain, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I realized that I actually had a very strong opinion of this movie. So this is the third and I think the last Tom Hardy
Venom:
Venom
The
movie.
Last Dance. This is the last one. So far.
Now I generally liked the Venom movies. I thought the first one was strongest, the second one was okay, and this one is a weird movie because I guess Tom Hardy is I think it's the production company that he partially owns that did this movie, right?
Yes.
He had a hand in the story as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it feels like two separate movies that are both too short. Right? So this movie has like two parts. And the two parts are slightly different from each other. And I wanted more of each separate part. There is an overlying villain that's kind of pointless. So the whole idea is that what do you call it?
Isn't it Null or Cole is the master of
so
symbiotes or whatever?
So the symbiotes at some point turned on this thing called Null, and they imprisoned them basically in the space.
Which is from the comics. This character exists. I've read.
Yeah, so they imprisoned him in the space like between universes, essentially, right? Which is very Doctor Who. And then the symbiotes went off and fucked off to do their thing. Well, for whatever reason, I don't really explain it, but Null basically needs a symbiote to create a link to a host. When they create the specific link, which is called the Codex, it makes it so that if he gets his hands on that, he can break free from whatever prison they created for him. And the Codex is basically if a host dies and they bring him back from the dead, right? It's almost like they create an imprint for life. Like it's like a blueprint for creating life where there was nothing, so that, they can always bring the host back. So because Venom, loves Eddie and brings him back, there is now a codex between them where, Venom can always rebuild Eddie because he's got the blueprint for him, right? And whenever he goes into full Venom form, there are these tracker creatures that can find him. They can find him from fucking anywhere. As long, essentially, I think they have to be on the same planet because there's only one at first. But it can, it just goes off like a radar for this thing, right? So it's interesting because the first half of the movie, you don't get a lot of full Venom. You get a lot of Venom talking to Eddie and little moments of him going full Venom, but you get a lot of, bits of him, like, the head floating around or like, a Venom arm or something like that. And that first half of the movie is basically a road movie about the fact that Eddie is wanted out in San Francisco, all the shit that happened in the second movie. So he figures, fuck it, I'll go to New York. He's like, we'll start over there, right? And then it becomes a road movie to go to New York. Now, I oddly wish that these were two separate movies. It's not that they were particularly good movies. It's that I actually do like the relationship between Eddie and Venom. I think that they're an adorable couple. And like, there's these funny moments in the first half of the movie where, like, Venom kind of vacillates between wanting to eat everybody and then being like, you know what? Maybe we should have had a quiet life. Maybe it would have been nice if we had a quiet life. Like, he gets very almost domestic with Eddie. And there's no love interest in this movie. Because that's the other thing, is that in the first movie, there was a woman that Eddie was fond of. In the second movie, he still was very much into her. But now there's no woman. It's just Eddie and Venom. There's no distraction. They're a couple. So I actually enjoy the road movie. They meet a family that's looking to meet aliens. Eddie Brock thinks they're a bunch of fucking weirdos, but they're very sweet. He ends up in Vegas. He bumps into the woman who ran the store from the first movie. It's a silly road movie with Eddie and Venom bonding and realize that, maybe they could live some different kind of life together, right? It's actually kind of a sweet and ridiculous movie. Now, they're being hunted. they're being hunted whenever they go full venom. They're being hunted by this giant crab-looking creature, which its design is very stupid, but what it does to people is hilarious. It's basically its head is a wood chipper, so when it puts people in its mouth, it wood chips them, and the pieces shoot out the back of its head. Right, so it doesn't even eat them; it just wood chips people. Right, and it's fucking hilarious to watch. I mean, like as a creature, it's not like, oh, I was eaten and it's in my stomach. No, no, no. It just wood chips you as you go through its mouth. So it's fucking awful. And Eddie is also being hunted by what is essentially the alien special forces unit from, I think it's Area 55, which is like the new Area 51 that they built pretty much underneath Area 51, I guess. As they destroy Area 51, so it looks like they're basically getting rid of Area 51, but all they did was they just went underground deeper. So there's shit going on. Eddie's being hunted by the government. He's being hunted by this creature. He has the codex. They can't turn into full form. I enjoyed that as a movie. Now, I don't know how that as its own movie would have culminated. But I do get the sense that this was almost two different movies. So that's the first, and what's interesting about that is, like I said, there's very little full venom. So you get a few action sequences. I mean, there's a really great sequence where Eddie and him get separated by the government attackers, and Eddie ends up in a river, and the venom is trying to catch up, and he keeps hopping through different animals along the riverbank to catch up with him. So he's like a venom fish and a venom frog and a venom bird, and I think it's a lot of fun. It's not a particularly good movie, but it is still a fun movie because those two are so good together. Even though really it's Tom Hardy basically acting off himself, which he's done before, so he's quite good at it. The second half of the movie is when they catch Eddie and Venom and separate them and bring them to this Area 55 thing. And when basically the military guy who's played by the operative from Firefly, whose name I can never remember. Chiwetel Ejiofor?
Mordo. Just say Mordo.
Mordo, yeah, exactly. It's Mordo. Mordo basically says, hey, if one of these people die, the Codex is destroyed. So that's and we save the universe. So he says, fuck it, we kill Eddie. That's the easy one. We'll just kill Eddie and the universe is saved. And listen, it does have a kind of logic to it. Just kill Eddie, right? Just kill Eddie. No Codex. But, Eddie doesn't want to die, and you, the audience, don't want him to die, and the Venom doesn't want him to die. And when the Venom and him... And the Area 55 is full of symbiotes. So apparently a whole bunch of symbiotes ended up on Earth as almost like refugees, and the military's been catching them. So there's got to be fucking 10 or 12 of them in this place, all in kind of like these sound prisons. And at one point there's some weird confusion. So in this part 2, this is all about the lab and these creatures, and they let one of the symbiotes bond with a human, the cop from the second movie, which again is kind of a weird thing, but I guess they were there investigating and they realized he might be a good host. So they before he died, they let the symbiote basically bond with him, which saved his life. And now he has this green version of Venom that basically has kind of like a snake body. I do like the fact that they try to vary their symbiotes. They don't just Carnage, outside of the fact that he could build all this kind of weird shit, still kind of looked like Venom, right? Well, in this, they're trying to have fun with it, so they're varying them. So there's this particular symbiote, when it transforms fully, has a snake body. And it's kind of advising them what to do, telling that this thing is coming, that they're not against the humans, that they're against this thing null, and that the humans should be working with them, but of course they don't want to trust them because the symbiotes are scary motherfuckers. And when Eddie gets there and finally gets reunited with Venom, it goes, of course it attracts everybody. So all the monsters start showing up, all the wood chipper heads, and all the symbiotes in the facility see it as their that they need to get out and bond with something so they can fight. What ends up happening is all these random people get seized by the symbiotes, and you get this gigantic symbiote battle between the wood chipper heads and all these variations on Venom. And the thing is, it's actually a lot of fun. Like there's a fire symbiote, and there's two symbiotes that once they get a host, they cling together and they become this giant muscular two-headed symbiote creature. And then there's a speed one, and there's a lightning one, and there's all this shit going on. And Eddie has to keep turning Venom off so that the creatures can't see him in the fight. But it's a huge fight. It goes on for a while. But the thing is, I wanted more of this part of the movie. Because finally what happens is it's a huge fight. So what's going to happen? Well, all the wood chipper heads show up, and they steadily kill their way through the other symbiotes until eventually it's just, I think it's Eddie, and there's one only other symbiote that survives, which is like a lightning speed symbiote. And Venom basically chooses to save Eddie because he loves Eddie, and he separates from Eddie, and what he does is he seizes all the monsters and kind of consumes them into his body, which is a really great sequence where he's basically, you should find it online, where he's crawling toward this giant acid vat shower that they've been using to like destroy the Area 51. And like the creatures are trying to kick out of him, and he's like undulating, and there's black goo everywhere. It's fucking great. And he basically positions himself underneath this thing and has Mordo, who's already been mortally stabbed, so he's out, basically hit the button so that it'll melt the bunch of them. Because you can't kill these things traditionally. If you cut them up, you break them, they always reform, right? So the only real way to kill these things is to really completely obliterate them. So that's what Venom does. Venom basically drags them all into this thing, and in killing himself and them, there's no codex. It's over. And the movie has kind of a weird ending after that, where essentially the government turns to Eddie and says, for helping stop the end of the world, we're going to excuse all the shit that you did. If you breathe a word of any of this, you're going to go to prison forever. And Eddie goes to New York, and he goes to see the Statue of Liberty, which is what Venom wanted to do because he realized he was a refugee, which is kind of a funny vibe. But again, this section, because you have all these awesome symbiotes, I wanted far more time with this. I wanted to have a whole movie where we had, Team Symbiote, because they all have physical personalities. They all seem like they would be interesting. So like I would really have loved like a team movie of them dealing with all these creatures, but it goes by so quick. The movie itself, on top of that, is actually not that long. What is the runtime? I think the runtime is under 2 hours. Hold on, Venom 3. Let's see, what is the length? Yeah, it's 1 hour and 49 minutes. So it's not even 2 hours, which I mean, even Kraven the Hunter was fucking over 2 hours as a movie. You know what? Maybe it's not that weird, because Let There Be Carnage was 1 hour and a half. Jeez, that's funny. And then Venom is an hour, and then the first one was 1 hour and 52. But I felt like this was two different movies that I would have watched if they had fleshed them out. Even if they were like just, they were two-parters that hung on each other. I just think that Tom Hardy was done, and they didn't think that they'd get the bandwidth from people. But I liked the road movie. I thought it was funny. And then I liked when there were all these Venoms, and I just wish there was more of it. And it's weird to watch a movie and be like, it's not like it's a great movie, but it's a fun movie. And I want more. And I feel like you just gave me such a smattering of it that I'm like, I mean, I suppose we always say it's better to walk away wanting more, right? Than to be like, this is too much. But like, I feel like this movie there should have been an extra half hour to this movie. I would have watched it because Eddie and Venom are so good together. It's such a good double act. And then once you get all the other creatures, like it turns into a big monster movie of symbiotes, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, it's I didn't expect to be unhappy with it, but in a happy way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you didn't think you'd want more of it. I get it.
Yeah, and I did. The idea of there being like a whole team of symbiotes, it almost turns into that. Was it Agent Venom? That's what they did, right? Agent Venom, where you didn't want.
Yeah,
you
where Flash
bond.
Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, they could do it now because I do think that there's a tiny piece of Venom that's still around, right? Maybe, possibly.
Well, there's always a tiny piece of Venom around.
And there's always the multiverse. So I think they could do a Ancient Venom storyline now if they want. I do think that Tom Hardy is done. But it's funny because they were never great movies, but they were always fun movies. And I think it was just that writing between Eddie and Venom is so good. Like at the end, where the monsters are all running around the camp, essentially looking for him, but they can't see him. And there's this scene with Tom Hardy, and he's in this destroyed helicopter, and he's kind of just sitting there, and he's realized that he's not going to get out. And it's funny because I realized it's just when they filmed it, it was probably just Tom Hardy alone talking to like a tennis ball, right? But he's acting with himself, so it's he does a really good job of having this kind of heart-wrenching scene with himself where he realizes that he thinks they're going to die together. And Venom is like, no, it's not going to happen. He's like, I'm not going to let you get sucked down with this. So yeah, I enjoyed it way more than I thought it was gonna, and I wanted more. And like, I almost feel, when you watch something and you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't want more of this. It's such cheap popcorn, and yet it tastes so good. Yeah. So that's Venom 3. It's cheap popcorn, but it tastes so good. You want more of it.
Oh, popcorn films are good.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, you should find the clip when all the final battle, all the symbiotes come out.
I've seen the clips of all the Venom parts, so I've seen it.
The symbiote battle is so great because it's so sticky and like it's fucking like there's tendrils.
Yeah, I kind of knew after the second one I didn't really want to watch the movie, but I had read that the symbiote parts were really fun, so I watched those, and I thought, oh, that's great. And it does look like Tom Hardy's having a lot of fun talking to himself, which is great, to get paid to make a movie where you talk to yourself. Good for him. Seriously, good for him. Because,
Yeah, and the thing is,
why not?
But I also don't want more Venom movies. I guess that's the weird thing, is that, like, I wanted more of this movie, but I don't want there to be more of them, because I don't know where they're going to go with it. I think it's good that they ended it.
I would have no problem. What I would like to see, is I would not mind a movie, a one-time usage of Venom where he's truly scary. No none of that. Just a
scary Venom
true
movie
monster, and it would have to. This is my vision of what it would be.
Wouldn't it have to be in relation to Spider-Man?
Yes. Oh no, it'd have to be a Spider-Man movie, but it would be Spider-Man and Venom, a one time. Don't make him recurring. Have him get shredded by the bell at the end, but it actually kills it.
Yeah.
And Eddie Brock goes to jail, but Venom is such a potentially, and he's occasionally used correctly. I shouldn't say correctly. I like Venom as an anti-hero. I liked Agent Venom and all. I like all that stuff. But there have been a couple stories, and they were early on stories where he would show up, because of course the thing is that, and you don't know this because he's not in Spider-Man movies, so they don't really, except for the third movie, and the third movie is not a good example. It's not a good usage of him. It's not good.
Yeah.
What made Venom so scary and such an interesting villain is because he was attached to Spider-Man. He had all of the knowledge. He was he wasn't. He was about to be bonded, and then Mr. Fantastic removed him. Bonding is permanent. Once you're bonded, you cannot be separated. That's what he was trying to do.
Oh, okay.
And that's what Peter Parker realized. No, he was integrating himself slowly, and when Mr. Fantastic said, this thing is alive, and it's trying to become a permanent part of you, that's when they used the sonic cannon to get it off of him, and they contained it, and then it broke out. So bonding is permanent. It's supposed to kill the host. Now, of course, they've retconned that, and Brock survived in the comics, even though they said for years he couldn't. So just like everything else, fungible, whatever. But originally the idea was that you got all the power, but then you could not be separated. That was it. The two of you were intrinsically tied together.
Yeah.
But he would just show up. Eddie Brock would show up at Aunt May's house. And because he knew everything about Peter Parker, he could say, oh, Aunt May, yeah, I'm a friend of Peter's. Oh, I've known him since childhood. Yeah, I went to this high school with him. And then Peter would come home, and Eddie Brock is sitting there with his aunt. And they're just talking. And Eddie would look at him and be like, yeah, I can come here anytime. And not only do I know about her, I know about Mary Jane. I know about
everything.
I know everything.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
And he can't sense him coming either.
He cannot, because since he knew his physiology, he knew how to mitigate all of his spider shit. That's what I'm saying, is you can make a really terrifying movie with that villain, but it has to be a one and done. The minute you try to soften him, forget it. That's what these movies are, and that's fine. That's fun. But you do one movie with Venom as it. And here's another thing, by the way. Whoever does it, if they ever do it, don't give him that long, slimy tongue. Make him clean like he originally was with the even teeth. That's scarier. The sharp teeth is not scary. It's silly. When he just had like a Cheshire Cat smile in the dark where all you saw were the white eyes and that smile, that's some fucking It clown scary shit. Do that. And just have him. I wouldn't even show Venom for at least half the movie, the suit. It would just be Eddie. And you would see in the shadows, like the white outlines and stuff, like him moving around, but you would never see him. And then he would show up, kind of like what they did with the Godzilla reboot, which I thought was great. You didn't see Godzilla for most of the movie. And then when he showed up, it was like, oh, fuck, there's Godzilla.
And I have an alternate take. I like your idea. I would watch that, right? But I think what I would always also watch, only because I think it would be funny, I would like to watch a Venom Deadpool movie.
Well, I think Agent Venom could be a set of movies too. I would like the Agent Venom idea with Deadpool would make a lot of sense.
Tom Hardy's voice, because I think Tom Hardy would still do the voice, and Ryan Reynolds together.
No, I don't. That's the nice part about Venom, because these things can attach to anybody. You can have them keep coming back in different forms.
Yes, I think that would be funny, but we'll see. Honestly, we'll see what Marvel's going to do with any of this shit, because I mean, like, Sony owns Venom, but they don't know what to do with Venom at this point, and
at some point Sony's going to get tired of not making money, and they'll sell it off.
Kraven the Hunter was not a good movie.
Yeah, they're going to end up selling this stuff because they keep trying, they keep failing, and they're going to figure out eventually it's not worth paying to make these movies.
Well, yeah, Kraven was not great. Morbius wasn't great. Spider-Woman was terrible.
I truly believe that what Sony is hoping for, and it's sort of happening a little bit, is they want to hold on to this so that if Marvel gets desperate enough, they'll pay more money for it. Because they're trying, because recycling the Avengers is no longer working. Yeah. So maybe if they can get all the Spider-Man villains, they can just make a Spider-Man universe. And it's possible. I can see it more now than I used to.
They've got all their X-Men shit now, so.
Yeah, and see, I think that's what that kind of blunts the Sony thing. Because no, we'll just do X-Men now. Because we're getting Ian McKellen and goddamn what's-his-face to come back for some reason.
Who?
They're getting Professor X and Magneto back, the two originals. They're bringing them back. They're going to be like 90 years old. I don't know. Because Marvel has no fucking idea what to do. I know. Bring back the first class people. I don't know what the hell you're doing. You could get what's-his-face back and you don't? Come on. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's all the multiverse shit now.
I will say this, though. Joe had an interesting theory before we were recording that we were going to talk about before we got distracted by dead people, which is you were making the argument that you think that the Batman is the best version of Batman so far.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Because I haven't seen it yet, and Joe was amazed that I hadn't seen it.
And so was my wife, by the way. My wife was shocked, more than I think I was, because I figured you would have told me if you'd watched it. So we're doing our summer film series.
Yeah, the problem with that movie is not that it's a bad movie. The problem with that movie is that it is so fucking long.
Well, and I made the mistake when we watched it yesterday of drinking coffee beforehand. So I was getting up to take a whiz at the end, I was up about every 20 minutes, which was not great. But that's that. I said, I'm never going to drink this much coffee before a 3-hour movie again. My fault. I kind of in the back of my head went, you often have to go to the bathroom a lot because you drink coffee so quickly and it's a diuretic and it's just, you don't drink it black. It's going to go right through you. But sure enough, it did because I'm stupid. In any event, we watched it And I told you, and I think I've said this before.
Yeah.
In terms of a Batman film, a single Batman film that I think is the best version of Batman I've seen, this is far and away the best version of Batman in terms of incorporating all the good facets of him.
All the elements, yeah.
All the elements. I will always hold the 89 Batman above all else because...
Well, and that version, though, does include a lot of it because he can fight. He is a detective. Like, there is more to that character than just being a ninja.
I don't know. Well, there is, but there's also a lot of compromises. And that's okay. I still love it because the Batmobile in that is still the best one. Although this is probably the best Batmobile sequence as well that I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, you don't like the Tumbler, right?
The Tumbler's fine.
The Tumbler makes sense for what it is and how it's used.
Nolan wanted a ground level Batman. He wanted to try to make it realistic. I think that is an interesting idea. I think it causes you to lose a lot of things that make Batman interesting. But fine. Whatever. He's got the best Joker. So Dark Knight
he does.
Is a nearly flawless film, except, of course, that they couldn't figure out how to make a good Two-Face. That Two-Face fucking blows.
I know, you hate the Two-Face, yeah.
I'm not going to go on that again, because that's my fucking Alien Covenant, and I've covered it already. So, we're not doing that shit again. This movie, though, because you complained...
But I did say that my issue with the Nolan... I love the Nolan Batman movies. My issue with them is that this is Ninja Batman. This is not Detective Batman.
Yes.
This is not brilliant Batman. This is just Ninja Batman. Yeah.
And the thing that makes the Batman so good, there's three reasons. One, it is the Detective Batman. However, it is a Detective Batman. It's year 2. He's been doing it for 2 years. And he is struggling with whether he is actually doing this thing right. And he actually is making a case through the movie that maybe he's not, which I like. He's fallible at this point. He's not just, I have a plan for every single eventuality that could ever happen, including myself showing up from time, wherever. Like, he's not there. He's not super Batman.
He's not Zur-En-Arrh yet, yeah.
Right. But he is smart, and he understands psychology, and the cops... Basically, Jim Gordon has realized that there is something about him that he needs, and he's bringing him into things even if the other cops don't love it, but they recognize they need help. So there's this kind of interesting balance where the cops don't hate him.
It should be like Sherlock Holmes, because if you watch any of the Sherlock Holmes series that the good ones that they've done, right? The idea is that the cops don't like that Sherlock exists, but the officers understand the fact that Jesus Christ, this guy knows his shit, and he gets shit done. So they're willing to accept his presence because he gets results.
Yes. Right. And that's what it is in here. And so Gordon is bringing him in because he's like, you are going to see things I can't. And the main villain is the Riddler. And what was done, because the Riddler is generally a buffoon. Now, in the comics, they've done more with him. But in the movies...
He shouldn't be, though, because he is supposed to be brilliant.
I agree. And this movie recognized that and decided to make him into a political serial killer. And it works so well that there is a viable argument that he is better than Heath Ledger's Joker, in my opinion. You could make that argument that as much as Heath Ledger got a particular version of the Joker perfectly, this version of the Riddler, I cannot imagine it being surpassed any time in the near term. And I cannot look at any other Riddler with any seriousness now, because this one was so well done as a character and as a performance. Like, the whole thing works. And the whole movie comes off...
Is it Paul Dano, right?
Paul Dano, however you're supposed to say it. Yes, he's
very good. He's very good.
He's excellent. And the whole thing is structured like Seven, but not as dire. But that's what they did, was they created the city is under the attack of a serial killer, and nobody can figure it out. Like, the cipher, it's all based on the Zodiac. There's ciphers, but he is using social media, so there's a modern element where he is capitalizing on people's kind of willingness to go along with a lunatic if he says the right things. Like, he's very intelligent. And he's he's manipulating everything and he's always one step ahead, which is what makes him sinister. And it is this idea that the Riddler is supposed to be really smart. He should be roughly on Batman's level. And I think the way they smartly handled that was because Batman is still relatively inexperienced. His deficiencies next to the Riddler are not as weird as people who are used to full Batman, who will figure any riddle out in 5 seconds. He's like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Don't worry about it. I know where he's going to be. And he's there and he catches the Riddler and the case is over.
Well, and that's the thing is that if you have Batman and Riddler head on, and Batman is smart enough, and then he's also physically capable enough, he gets the Riddler every time. Yeah,
right.
That's why that was that one Riddler book that you didn't like it, but the one that was part of the one bad day series.
Oh yeah.
Where they made Riddler like super duper. It's not that I like that version of Riddler.
Yeah, I like that being the Riddler, yeah.
But I like the idea that, it would be funny if he really was more brilliant than you realized all along. And to some degree, he was kind of amused by it all. Because that's the thing, is the way you handle the Riddler in the comics is like, yes, they descend into buffoonery because it's very tough to depict genius. True genius. And very often, the character is being written. It's the same problem with Sherlock Holmes. You have a character who you've dubbed a genius, but you're writing him from the point of view of, buffoonery to some degree, right? So it's almost like you don't even know the reality of how a genius would think. That's why it's the mystery of it's almost better, because you don't realize just how crazy Batman is, because, you don't find out about the plans until the plans pop up, and then you're like, holy shit, Batman had a plan? And it's like the same with the Riddler. The Riddler, it's like maybe he was never a buffoon. Maybe he was just so fucking amused by all these fucking idiots and the shit they were up to, where he was like, I don't care. And that's why the One Bad Day book is interesting,
What the angle that this movie takes with him, which I think is a very good angle as well, when you're talking about somebody, what this type of character is, he is trying to demonstrate how much smarter he is because he's pissed off about something that you can actually empathize with. And so he becomes sympathetic. And so it isn't just, I just want to prove I'm smarter to prove I'm smarter. It's, I need to prove I'm smarter because I was underestimated for something that I could not have controlled. So there's an angle to him in this where he has been wronged. He's making a valid point at the end of the movie. And so and plus, they took a page out of Watchmen where there's a point where he's like, oh, no, I already did it. Like, you figured it out, but you're too late. Like, it's done. Yeah. And it's that level of thing. And that's what I mean, is this movie has it all in a way. Yeah, it's 3 hours, because there's also this deep, without being really overt about it, I think they do attempt to kind of interrogate what Bruce Wayne would be like what his parents' death and taking this on would do to him emotionally, because he's presenting as this terrifying figure, and then they're delving into
the mistake I think people often make with Batman, and why for years I thought Batman was one of the more fascinating of all the DC characters, was that this is the mistake that Quentin Tarantino made in Kill Bill, where basically Kill Bill said, how he says Kal-El is the real Superman, and that Clark Kent is the fake identity that he has created, right? Whereas I think Tarantino is wrong. I think that I think Clark Kent really is Clark Kent. He was raised by Midwestern parents. I think he really is a happy kind of good old boy. I think that he tones it down because he doesn't want to come off as bold and courageous as he really is. But I think that otherwise, I think that Clark Kent is not that far off morally off who Superman really is. Whereas I don't think that Batman is Bruce Wayne. I think Batman is fucking Batman. I think that once his parents are gone and he becomes this thing, I think psychologically Batman is Batman. And the Bruce Wayne aspect of him is the fucking persona. Alfred doesn't even seem to realize that, but over years, I think in the books, I think that they're starting to write it like he might, but I don't even think some of the writers realize it. Bruce Wayne is Batman's idea of what normal people want to see. What and there's a nice middle ground. Sometimes in the Batman books, I like it when Bruce Wayne is Batman, but he's not wearing the costume. Right, so like he's dealing with Robin.
Well, and this movie gets into that. What you're talking about specifically, in that instead of getting into the difference between Batman and Bruce Wayne as two different things, it gets into Batman within Batman. Like, okay, yes, you want to be Batman, and that is who you are. But there's segments inside of Batman, and how are you going to handle them? As opposed to, well, you're going to be Bruce Wayne, you're going to be Batman. No, it's, well, what do you want Batman to be? You are Batman. What do you want that to be?
Yeah. And that's to be
what
Batman.
It starts getting into.
He wants to be Batman 24/7, but then he has to take on this lighthearted persona some of the time.
Well, that the movie almost doesn't have at all. When he's out as Bruce Wayne, it's almost always undercover, where he's watching things, which I think is great because he does that in the comics.
Yeah.
You know, where he's just walking around with a hoodie and nobody knows who he is. He's got like a mask on, you know, like just like a face covering and a hat, and he's just looking and observing and trying to figure out what the patterns are. But otherwise, he's almost never in a suit or anything. He's in it, I think, twice in the whole movie where he has to make a public appearance. And he looks miserable. They never make him look happy. There's no woman on his arm. There's no Lamborghini. There's none of that. He looks like he's 5 seconds from eating a bottle of Xanax. Every time you see him in public, he looks miserable.
But isn't that the core of Batman? Because, I mean, Batman's core is his misery.
I agree. That's what I'm saying, is this movie has captured the totality of what like Batman is.
He has this doomed upbringing, and it's like, this is what creates the idea of I want to punish bad people forever. Yeah. And no matter what happens, I will not stop. Yeah. And I will be unrelenting. But, you know, people will be like, oh, I want to be like Batman. It's like, no, you don't. You don't want to be that broken. Nobody wants to be that broken.
There again, this movie never has anybody like idealizing Batman. No point. In fact, most people are terrified of him and the criminals equally.
Yeah.
That's another thing that you don't see a lot, where he saves a guy and the guy's immediate response is, please don't hurt me. Like he's going to kill him because he's so scary. Which, again, this movie does 90% of what we want Batman to be correctly.
Yeah, I wanted to see it. It's just so long.
It is long, but it won't feel long. Unlike the movie we watched.
Oh, I'm aware of that.
Watched Batman.
I'm aware of that, but it's still long. And speaking as a person who doesn't have oodles of time, it's tough to get that in. You know?
But as you are one of the bigger Batman fans I know, this is one of those times where I say set that time aside because it's worth it.
Yeah,
I don't know that you're ever going to get another version like this.
Well, isn't he supposed to get another one?
Yeah, but that's
have they folded him? Have they folded him into the gun universe?
No, they're separating them. There's going to be. This is now considered Elseworlds, so this is no longer mainline DCEU.
So it may go on.
Well, but it's having lots of production problems. So I don't know. If
I just think it'd be so interesting to actually have two Batmans.
Yeah. That's what they're saying, is they're basically allowing it because it did so well. They can't not allow it. People are like, no, you can't shut it down. This was too good. So
well, this was the first Batman outside of the Snyderverse.
Yeah,
you know, they basically. I mean, it is an Elseworlds in that respect because their core universe was the Snyderverse. They collapsed that, and this had nothing to do with it.
It's Elseworlds for a few reasons, but. Yeah.
Well, it's also so grim, right?
Well, it's not just that. It's what they get. It's they do some interesting things with his backstory that I think they did do in the comics, but differently. Specifically with like his father's background and stuff like that. I think is interesting. Again, it all ties together because this is also like a big political conspiracy movie as well, which I like. It is showing the temptation of corruption and how easy it is to get sucked into it, even if you're a good person. There's a lot of that in this too. Also, a lot of commentary that, particularly in 2025, seems interesting because this was made in 2022. So, yeah.
Yes, a Batman in today's day wouldn't last long.
Oh yeah, Yeah, there's several times where people are like, hold on. You're talking as somebody who's come from a very specific background now. Because he is. Because that's what, even within tragedy, it's not like he was ever poor.
No.
So, there's a difference.
No, but as the Joker put it, it's amazing what you can do with just a few quarts of gas.
That's true. I like gas and knives because they're cheap. Isn't that what he says?
Yeah.
He says something about it's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why that version of Joker I think is so good to me.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
But I also don't think that he's the end all because the Jack Nicholson version of the Joker is fantastic as well for different reasons.
Well,
that's more of
the Jack Nicholson version is the Golden Age version. That's the original comics version.
Yeah.
More or less. Yeah. That's what I mean. So you can have permutations of it. I always feel like the problem with the Riddler is they always go with the old kind of Adam West version.
Well, they always
honestly,
go with
that's kind of boring.
Yeah, they always go with the silly version.
The buffoon.
I mean, the sillier versions of these villains are easier to kind of digest. It's when you actually get to how scary they really are. I mean, listen, Clayface. I want them to do a Batman with Clayface. You talk about having a scary Venom movie. Clayface would be a scary Venom movie. Somebody who could be almost anybody. Yeah. Who could, yeah.
No, I agree. That's why I said I want a scary Venom movie. I would like that. I like the Tom Hardy stuff, but I would very much appreciate a one and done. I don't want this to keep going because again,
the Batman movies should be one and done. I mean, listen, the villains could go to Arkham and that's it, And then they stay there indefinitely. But that is, I mean, actually, do you have anything else, or is it just our double? Oh,
no, it's just our
play the music.
Our feature here, which hold on, where do I have that? Oh, here it is. I always remember we're going to put it in the right place.
Thanks for killing my mom.
Hey, no problem.
God.
You shut the fuck up!
Oh man, that just sneaks up on you every time.
Yeah, that's a good one because I think you forget about that clip easily.
I do, and then she says it, and it's the way she says it and the way he responds.
It's so good. It's
so
good.
Whatever you say, I know that you enjoyed half this movie.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So we watched a film from 1985, a Sam Raimi film that most people probably don't even remember.
The first movie he made after Evil Dead, the first one.
Yes. So this was a movie where he had some clout from Evil Dead, which I think surprised a lot of people in its popularity because it was a relatively low budget comedy unintentionally comedic
the first one.
film.
Listen, the first one is not as good. It's the second one that was amazing for me.
No, but his camera work and what he was doing was different, and so it caught a lot of people's attention. So it got a lot of positive reception for various reasons. I think it also did very well in the midnight movie circuit as a let's go and just have a good time laughing at the I'll swallow your soul shit. And so he wanted to do another movie with Bruce Campbell. At the time, one of the Coen brothers was an editor on Evil Dead, so he knew them. And they decided to collaborate on a comedy crime film titled Crime Wave, which was starring, I don't even remember any of the actors except for Paul Smith, who is Bluto from Popeye. That's how most people know him, or the Beast from Bond from Lynch's Dune. And one of the best-known character actors that ever lived, which, of course, would be Brian James, who most people would know as Leon from Blade Runner, but did a ton of things.
And I got to tell you, the more I've thought about it, the more I realized that, geez, he could have played the lead in this so perfectly.
Yes.
But the problem is, I don't know who the fuck you would have got to replace him in this movie.
I honestly don't think you needed two of them. You could have had Paul Smith just playing that guy doing everything. I really think his performance is so deranged that it can inhabit two people.
No, but
so
the two
either
of them,
you do it where he's
of them
one of
together,
twins,
though, the two of them were so good.
No, but you could have had him playing two roles. They could have done twins. But the movie itself barely has a narrative. I mean, it's almost threadbare.
We'll sum it up really quick. Two criminals are hired to do a hit. They do the hit. Then by accident, they kill the guy who actually sent them on the hit. Then they realize that they've been
hijinks ensue.
Yeah, and they realize that then has been witnessed by somebody else. So they go to kill that guy and kill that woman, and that then just creates an endless wave of having to kill yet more people to cover up what's going on. And it's a comedy, so it's not like Saw, where you're like, oh, look at how they kill these people. No, it's actually quite absurd and ridiculous. And the two, it is a cartoon. The way that the two villains handle this movie, they are the best part of the movie to watch. They are the most enjoyably weird part of the movie, and they are a cartoon. The way they act, the way they sound, the things they do, the way they're filmed, it is a cartoon. That's the best part of the movie. I'll let you explain the worst part of the movie.
Yeah, and this is basically what I said in my short review. I said when the two main heroes, specifically the protagonist and his love interest, every time they appear, I'm almost falling asleep. It's just doesn't work. Doesn't work for a number of reasons. I don't really blame the actors because they went on to they didn't just do this and disappear, as a lot of movies I review where it's the person only did this and then they vanished off the face of the earth.
No,
it's not one of those.
the main guy, Vic, he went on to do a ton of shit.
Yeah, and then the love interest, she did a number of TV roles. She did more than a couple things after this, so it did not destroy their careers.
I think that they just wrote the main character. They wrote them so straight-laced, and I wonder if it was out of fear of having so many other kooky characters in this. They wrote them so straight-laced that it's kind of it's like you said, it's boring. It is off-putting because the others are so weird. And like if you just given them a little more personality, like let them be weird. Honestly, really, what it is let them be weird. I know that Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi wanted Bruce Campbell. He wants Bruce Campbell to be in everything, but Sam Raimi wanted Bruce Campbell to play the lead, and I guess the producer or the studio didn't want it. Which is why he expanded the role of the heel Ronaldo, whatever his name is, who has a lovely death scene, by the way. That fucking dummy, just like they crumple that thing. But Bruce Campbell would have done it better, And I think but again, maybe he wouldn't have, because maybe he would have been as tied up with the script. I mean, they don't particularly write him very well. The main guy is kind of boring, and he's clumsy, but like he's almost not clumsy in that. I think they wanted him to be like adorable, but he's not. He's just kind of irritating. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's there's two fundamental problems. One is they have no chemistry. I mean, they just don't feel like they're in the same role. They don't feel like they're in the same room in the same movie a lot of times. It's bizarre. And I hear that phrase is used a lot, and I often am like, I don't know. They seem okay to me, but this is one of these cases where I can see if you said they have no chemistry, I can see that they have no chemistry.
It goes too quick, too. They expect them to have chemistry so quickly, and I almost feel like the two of them needed like another day or two of him being good to her and her realizing that he is good.
Well,
but
here,
again,
I'll tell you, here's the problem. I figured this out about 20 minutes after we finished watching the movie. I thought to myself, the problem is, why not just have it where she kind of likes him, but she's with Bruce Campbell and he's just too dominating. Make the guy less dweeby, but she's not available. And so they kind of have these awkward interactions where each of them kind of knows that, they like each other, but it can't happen. And then once Ronaldo's out of the picture, then they're forced together by adversity. You don't have to do this thing where he's reading out of a book that says how to talk to girls. And it's just such a dumb joke.
Yeah, and the thing is they tried to be cartoonish with them, but it's like they picked the wrong cartoon.
Yeah.
You know?
I referenced in the commentary multiple times. I said, hey, this is what Little Shop of Horrors figured out correctly.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for me that hangs over that part is I have seen this done much better.
Yeah, the good guy part, not the monsters. The bad guy parts are great.
No, the villains are the reason to watch it. The villains are excellent and are, in fact, why I would tell somebody, watch this once because you will never see a pair of performances like this again. I cannot think of another pair of villains that are like this, with the voices and the looks and everything.
They are a cartoon. They're living cartoons in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, and the
that
voice,
stuff is excellent.
The voice that he puts on too. Both of them have such an interesting range of like they're playing caricatures of themselves. You know. It's so good.
Because Brian James is always making this weird face that's emphasizing his kind of teeth, and he's like scrunching his nose and going, he's doing this thing where he's making himself look rat-like. Like he's emphasizing his unusual features. And then Paul Smith is basically just playing Bluto, but with a weird kind of voice. Like, he's just doing this guttural thing.
He has this kind of, he grunts, but when he talks, he almost is bringing his voice up to a higher octave.
I'm gonna catch you, lady.
Yeah, like it's very. It doesn't sound like it should be coming out of him necessarily.
Right. Where again, he's coming off as almost this big, overly oafish brute, and that's what they just. I mean, there's a point where he's just literally mowing through doors by smashing them. He's doing a Hulk thing because he's a big guy.
He rips the scene where he rips the carpet across the room. It's hilarious.
Masterful. Just beautiful. Like, that stuff is the reason to watch it. The problem is that every time that stuff stops, all you're doing is counting the minutes until it gets back to it. To the point where early on I think I said this. I was like, why are they not cutting from this? These two people are
there's
so
a scene
when
they're standing in front of the door, they're standing on the stairs.
Yes.
And he's like, did you say something? He's like, no. And he's like, oh, okay. And then like they keep cutting back and forth between the two of them. And you're like, what do you want me to see here? Because it's not there, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other odd part is it takes a good, I'm going to say 15 minutes before Sam Raimi's camera work kicks in. So the opening is also shot very almost classic comedy, but the camera's not really moving.
No,
and it's mostly the lead and the woman.
But then it does. Then it
goes bonkers.
Yeah, then it gets rolling, and once it gets rolling, it's good because I even noticed that it was very.
There's a random lightning storm that's not explained, and suddenly the movie goes fucking insane, and that's great. But it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like I said, the problem is that it's a 50-50 movie.
Yeah,
and you're gonna have to sit through that boring 50%. And this is the thing, right? I told you as we were watching, you were like, do you remember this? And I'm like, no, I don't remember. And the reason I don't remember it is because it's fucking boring. And I forgot about it. I remembered mostly the second half where it's all zany cartoon shit, which is excellent. So I would almost tell people that if you don't see Brian James or Paul Smith, fast forward. Just fucking fast forward, and it'll be a much better film.
You know what?
Not be shocked. There's a fan edit that minimizes this.
I was going to say, I think you can watch this movie and totally cut out the hero and the girl and still have it be funny, like a funny short.
Well, okay, you have to have a little bit because they're in the big fight at the end, so you have to know who they are. But you could cut all that opening. Like, you don't need Ronaldo. You don't need any of that.
Yeah.
You could literally have it where she breaks up with the guy in the restaurant, and then they're back in the room, and then you just go to the fight. And that's it.
And the thing is, while we were watching, I just kept going through all the people that would have been better for that role.
Yeah.
Which is very funny.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Like Rick Moranis.
What did we say? Rick Moranis, and who was the other one? You named somebody else.
Oh, I named a few people. Rick Moranis, Anthony Edwards. Two in particular.
No, well, yeah, but there was somebody else. There's another comedy actor. Rick Moranis, and who was the other one? I can't remember now. You said somebody else, and I said, oh, yeah, perfect. There was somebody else.
Anthony Edwards would have been excellent for that.
No, he would have, but he's 80s. Not. The other person was like a comedy. Martin Short.
Martin Short could have done it
perfect.
too. Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, Inner Space. Inner Space is basically,
yeah,
he's playing the. You know what? Actually, Inner Space is a great example because Martin Short is playing that neurotic, kind of almost irritatingly absurd straight man.
Yeah.
Right. But then through the course of the movie, he basically, he seizes the day. Right. And Martin Short is great at that. That's a great movie. And seeing him do it, you realize it can be done so much better. I get the sense that This is one of those rare examples where I feel like the director should have had less controls put on him. Let him do his thing. But maybe
Yes.
Sam Raimi just didn't know what his thing was yet. Maybe he was also hampered by a script to some degree.
The thing that I don't know, and I have not found any. I'm not going to buy the physical release of this just to find out. I'm sorry.
Well, because
I'm
you
not.
said you don't want to see it again. Yeah,
I will never
you're
watch
good.
this again. I would watch clips of that end fight on YouTube, and that's as far as I'm going. But I know that what happened was that another editor was brought in to edit the film. And what I don't know is, did they substitute takes where the heroic leads were in more kinetically weird Darkman-like scenes, and then they edited in the kind of because it's very typical on movies to do.
The scene where he's talking to her and she looks away, and then he's like cleaning his glasses and he like dips them in her water.
Yeah, that's great.
Right? There's weird shit in there, and I just wonder if there had been more weird shit.
Well, and this is what I'm saying. So in a lot of movies, they'll say, all right, we're going to shoot this as it's written. Right? Do it from the page, the way it's supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. All right, now let's do a couple of takes where you do your own thing. Do something different. If it works, we'll, improv basically, or do a little bit of a variation. Do it a little bit overboard, over the top. Okay, we're gonna put the camera here. Did Sam Raimi have shots where he did what the producers wanted, and then he did his own thing and was intending to use that, and they went, this is too weird. We need them to be the classic kind of. Audiences are not going. You already have two weird villains, and audiences are going to struggle with that. So we need this to be grounded, and they substituted boring footage. It's very possible. If that's the case, then there is potentially a good version of this movie where he's doing shit like the camera's going up that lady's nose as she's recoiling in horror, which gives it a bizarre, funny quality to it. And if that exists, then they screwed themselves because this movie bombed with their cut. So they didn't improve it. But if in fact that's what he shot, so when you're saying maybe he hadn't figured it out, there's no way to know because we don't know if there was alternate takes that got jettisoned that were better for whoever they brought in who didn't understand what Raimi's style was.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine
I was looking to
that
see if
all
there
the
was
bizarre stuff, there was no alternate footage and they had to use it. Because it just doesn't feel like these are the same movie.
If there were alternate versions of the movie.
Any evidence of it or not?
No, there's a Chinese region-free DVD and there's a Japanese Laserdisc, and all they seem to have done was they've oddly removed the line where the one guy goes, "Get away from the fucking window."
Wow, that's a shame. That's a great line.
That's a great scene. They seem to have they just seem to have shortened some of the scenes. Yeah,
I mean, shortening the lead scenes would be a good idea, but nothing else.
I just wonder if there's a version of this movie that's better.
I don't know because I couldn't find. I think this is a movie that kind of everybody, including Sam Raimi and the others, just want to not care about anymore.
Yeah,
this feels like his version of Lynch's Doom, where he's like, you know what? I couldn't do what I wanted to. They screwed me over. I'd rather just forget about it because it's not like anybody had any fun either. So. Even though it sure looks like, outside of, trashing his hotel room to exorcise demons, that looks like Brian James and Paul Smith are having a ball. Like, they look like they're having a blast. And that's what makes their stuff work even more. Is not only is it gonzo, off the wall shit, but they look like they are just being told, do whatever you want. And they did. And the two of them understood what their characters were perfectly, and they work great. I mean... It is, if nothing else, I said in my short review, I'll say it here too, I'm not going to call this a bad movie because those parts with them are so good that it makes it worth watching just once.
Oh, no, they're great.
They are great. Whether you would return to it, I don't know.
Oh, I saw that's a great line. Someone basically said, this movie is if the Three Stooges were the murderers.
And that's the thing is, I want more of them. I would watch the whole movie about them and all the people they'd killed with that machine before. Right? Like how they got started and why they were the guy. Like, you could have done that. I would have been fine with that.
Oh, man. Hold on. Yeah. This is funny. Somebody compiled a list of things that Sam Raimi has I guess, absently said about Bruce Campbell in his movies. So, Crime Wave, he wanted to make him the lead.
Boy.
Darkman, he felt Neeson was fine, but stiff and awkward in a role that he obviously felt Campbell could have done better. Quick and the Dead, he would have replaced Russell Crowe with Bruce Campbell if they'd let him. For the love of the game, Bruce should have told Raimi not to make it. The Gift, he would have replaced Keanu Reeves with, or Greg Kinnear with Bruce Campbell. Spider-Man, he thought that Bruce Campbell would have been a fantastic Green Goblin. He wouldn't have replaced, what's his name, Willem Dafoe, but he felt that Campbell could have done it just as well. And then when he said, drag me to hell, apparently he said jokingly, instead of the story of a young woman wanting a promotion, how about an old, fat, schlubby Bruce who has been passed over for promotion for years? So, anyway, yeah, I was trying to see if I could find more information about the movie, but yeah, it just seems like it was a complete train wreck.
I mean, it sounds like it was... I feel like we got lucky that the stuff with Smith and James is as good as it is. I think that's a minor miracle because it really does save a movie that if all of it was like the leads, it would be such a waste of time. Even with all the weird camera work and everything, even with the dummies and the weird lightning storm and the bright lighting, if you didn't have those two characters, if they were written more down to earth or as incorrectly funny as the leads are, I don't think it works. I think
no. It's the fact like that line. It's the three Stooges are the murderers.
Yeah.
And it becomes ridiculously cartoonishly slapstick.
Yeah.
You know, so much so that you're like, oh yeah, they're killing people, but it's funny.
Right.
You know, and you kind of hope that they do electrocute the lead at the end.
Pretty much. I mean, we get the electrocution of the lead, except it's a fake out. But yeah, like that, even that, where it's these people, the nuns in the car, listening to this, and it's, you know, I don't need movies to be sensical from the beginning, but it's so just nothing. Like, there's nothing about I would not. You remembered that they were going for that guy, right? They're listening to this radio thing. But any normal audience member, even I'm sitting there going, why are we looking at nuns in a car? What does this have to do with anything? It's not as if Nancy, who ends up being one of the nuns, who has not taken her vow of silence yet, it's not like she says, we have to get there in time, otherwise they're going to kill him. That's all I need. Just give me that so we know this is connected, because otherwise you don't know what the hell this is. You know? It's just, they're listening to the radio thing, but I don't know that people, I didn't make the connection right away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's worth seeing for Brian James.
Paul Smith and Brian James make the movie.
Yeah.
And it is worth seeing it for that.
About Brian James. One of the things I think is so funny about him is that he can make himself seem so kind of like small and like you said, he really tried to make him seem very maybe like rat-like and kind of like lanky in this movie. And yet there's other movies you see of him where he's like this big, like, I mean, I keep thinking of him in Nemesis, where he's actually like a big scary dude.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting the way that guy works.
Yeah, because we barely ever really see him without the coat and everything on. So I don't know if the costuming, plus he's next to Paul Smith, who is a big dude.
Is a big dude.
Like, he's just a wide guy. So I don't know whether it's that if we saw Brian James next to the lead all the time, he would look a lot bigger, or it's because he's paired with a guy and we see him often with a guy who is twice his width, literally twice his width. So it's hard to say that. But yeah, he's an interesting actor because he pops up in all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and
I wonder, we should find a top 10 Brian James movies. See those.
Ooh, let's see. Are there any?
Well, you know, Blade Runner's on there.
Brian James. Well, of course, it's always going to be on there, even though I don't know. I mean, he was good in it, but here we go. Brian James Magic.
This is a notable list, right? The Fifth Element, Blade Runner, 48 Hours.
Yeah.
The Ballad of Gregorio Cortez, which I've never seen. 1982. Nope. Silverado. Yeah, he's in that. He's funny. It's a bit role, though. The Player, which I haven't heard of, which is a Robert Altman film. Flesh and Blood, which he is fucking awesome in.
Yeah, he is.
He's all through that movie. It's great. Southern Comfort.
Yep.
Black Sea 213. He played Captain Killick in this thriller.
Didn't see that.
Yeah, and The King is Alive. It's a comedy drama.
I found a list that includes one that I would absolutely say yes,
Black Sea,
which is Cabin Boy. He is in Cabin Boy, and he has the best line of the movie, which is, purple lightning. That's a good sign. That is probably that is my favorite line in that whole movie. And I'm pretty sure he says that.
I always forget that one.
I know he's in the movie, and he's great, because he's like a big guy in that movie.
Yeah, he's on the crew, yeah.
Yeah. I think he's the one who says it. Let me look. I want to make sure I'm getting that right, because I hear him saying it, but wow, I really misspelled Cabin Boy when I wrote that. Holy crap. Vacani Boy? What keys was I on? Here it is, Cabin Boy. Let's see. He plays...
What a weird flick.
Big Teddy.
That movie, Black Sea 213?
Yeah, what is it?
It's a weird description. So, let's see. Gabe, a photographer, his assistant Annie, and his boss hire a ship to take them out to sea on a modeling shoot. What Gabe doesn't know is that an old friend turned enemy of his has indirectly lured him into the situation, and the models that were hired locally are skilled weapons handlers and dealers. The ship is on its way to meet a South African submarine to whom Dean means to sell a piece of high-tech and illegal cargo. Everything goes horribly wrong when Dean, the captain, the models, and Gabe's all start killing each other, and they spend the rest of the film trying to survive. The captain is Brian James.
Oh, okay.
But I can't tell from the photos if it's a horrid B movie or it's probably a horrid B movie. But I mean, yeah. Oh no, it's a horrid B movie. 3.2.
Okay.
Perfect late night Showtime trash. There you go.
200 hours later.
Which is a shame because we really were at.
It is Brian
end.
James who says, "Yeah, purple lightning. That's always a good sign." So I remembered it correctly.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
And it is the funniest line in the whole goddamn movie because it's just he says it's such a throwaway line. It's so good.
Yeah, this doesn't look good.
Well, listen, I mean,
Brian James and Rutger Hauer had this thing where they just started doing so many bad B movies toward the end there.
Yeah, you know what though? That gets you something like Split Second. So
I know that's what I'm saying. But then they'd pop up in cool shit. Because I mean, who would think that Brian James would pop up in Fifth Element?
Oh yeah, and he's great in that. He's very funny in that.
He is. Yeah, he's playing a silly character. Yeah. So
yeah.
There you go. I think we've seen most of the really good Brian James movies. Good for him.
Yeah. Now, like I said, he's one of those people. He's one of the actors that I'm always delighted when he shows up. Because I know he's going to be fun in it. I don't care if the movie's any good or not. You know what I mean? That's not the important part. There are actors who are like that. Where I'm like, yeah, Rutger Hauer's another one. I don't care if the movie's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? So what?
I mean, if it's a piece of shit, then they're not going to save it. But if you're watching it anyway and they show up, then you're like, yay.
No, but there are movies I've watched where I'm like, well, this movie sucks, but this person's giving it their all. So what do I care?
Flesh and Blood with the two of them is fantastic. I mean, it goes a bit long, but that is a
I'm not saying it's going to make you watch the movie.
That is a really
again
great
again,
but troubled movie.
But, yeah.
You know. Well, I guess we've bantered long enough.
Yeah, we have bantered and driven off. I go back to an individual who left a comment on one of my fives that said, "Get to the point faster," on a 5-minute show. And if that's, I've said this before, if you don't like it, stop listening. It's fine. I don't care. I'm not trying to be NPR. I'm not trying to be one of those other shows. That's not our thing. So I'm not bothering, and I'm not going to care if other people don't like banter. Then there's like 4 million fucking podcasts in the world. I'm sure you'll find something you like.
Actually, what's funny about this, all of this to me, because, I don't really think it's a show at the end of the day,
No.
is that you and I talk for like an hour before the show. And then one of us remembers to record.
Yeah.
And then when we turn off the recording, we continue to talk. And honestly, we'd probably talk for another hour if I wasn't like, dude, I gotta go.
I've gone into the other room, and my wife has said to me, wow, that was a long show. I'm like, yeah, but we didn't start recording for like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, actually, it's not that long.
Yeah, and then there are times where I'll be like, oh, shit, we should probably record this.
Yeah.
Let's just start,
Yeah, we were talking about the Batman. You're like, save it for the show. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because I thought it would probably be an interesting, observation of the Batman. So the thing for me, I'm getting something out of this that has nothing to do with anybody. I'm getting concentrated conversation time with you.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
I have never had an expectation of an audience. So.
And I don't think they exist. So we're in perfect harmony.
I'm going to tell you exactly what I honestly.
Yeah.
If somebody were to say to me, because I've said many times, and it's absolutely the truth, the show is never going to make money. I have no expectations it's going to make money. I've had people say, well, then why do you do it? And there's a couple answers, but the one that I really, truly, deep down, like the best is I think about how I found out about number stations. I don't even remember how I found out what they are, but then I found that there were people who were into them, and it's a small, very select group of people. For a lot of individuals, it probably sounds like the most boring thing to be interested in. But I found a couple of different, like somebody put out an album of just compilations, which I bought. There are blogs that are about them that I've read that probably have, less than 1,000 total worldwide ever viewers. But I had a ball with them. And if for some reason we've had people listening for a long time, we've had people contributing small amounts of money, which is all appreciated, don't get me wrong, for a while, somebody values something about this, and that's all the justification I need. And if it's somebody who's like a number station person, all the better. Let the people who want to go listen to Serial go listen to that. There's a million of those people. That's what they want.
Listen, you asked me to show up. I showed up.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I've been showing up now for years.
Yeah.
If we weren't doing this, we'd be playing video games.
And we do get great responses from people. We've gotten those great Hollywood stories from Mike. I get great movie suggestions.
Yeah, good.
And music suggestions and all this stuff. So honestly, I'm getting more out of it than you are, listener. And that's fine with me. I'm okay with that.
There you go.
So, speaking of which, I should have promoted this at the top, but I'll promote it at the end. There is going to be a new late night. The numbering is going to be weird. I struggled with my OCD-ness on this for a while. Because technically, it's a later number than the shows that are going to follow it. But I wanted to give people a break from... We just did 13 hours on Star Trek. We're about to do another 8 hours on Devs. And I thought it might be nice to have something completely different in between. Just a one-off where I'm talking to somebody that has nothing to do with movies or anything that we normally talk about. So it's going to be a completely different show. There's not even a single curse word in it. Not by intention, just by accident. So it's a legitimately clean late night.
I don't intentionally curse.
No, but that's what I'm saying is it's even in the ones where Doug and I, because Doug doesn't swear much, and honestly, we probably don't swear all that much, but I know we drop a couple of F-bombs, so I have to say explicit. But like I said, it's not a long-form analysis of anything pop culture entertainment in any serious degree, so it's almost an intermission before we dive into Devs, which we go through all the way. We do the entire series. That's 4 episodes. It's like 8 hours or 9 hours. So this is a single one-off in between. That'll give you a break, but that's why when you look at the numbering, it's going to jump way ahead. And then the Devs ones are going to go back to the regular, because I'd already rendered the videos. And I'm honestly not going to redo it.
Most people won't even notice.
No, because I only put the numbering in like 1 or 2 places. I don't even put it in the header image. I put it at the end.
If they're going to listen, they're going to listen.
Well, it's more of, I don't want people to think that they got like, because there have been weird issues with the pod feed stuff. Like episodes not showing up correctly, which have never been our problem when I've looked into them. They've always been like the host, like Apple Podcasts or whatever. So there have been those cases. But if you see that there's suddenly a jump in the numbering, it's not because there's a problem. I'm putting 165 out before 160. And so the devs ones are going to be 160, 1, 2, 60, 61, 62, 63. So I guess it's 164, whatever. But the number is going to be off. It's intentional because I wasn't going to re-render all the videos just for that because it takes a fucking long time and I don't feel like doing it. And I didn't even know this late night was necessarily going to work out. But then I thought about it, and like I said, we did 14 goddamn hours on Star Trek. Maybe people just want a laid-back show, and that's fine. I understand. I don't want to, it's nice to have something where we're talking about lighter stuff, and then we'll dive back into heavy analysis, especially because Devs is a heavy series. So that's going to weigh you down philosophy-wise. This will be a lightweight one, just a fun one, and then we'll dive back into the shit. So just in case anybody notices that, there's nothing wrong with the feeds. I didn't screw up the numbering. I put this one out of order. So don't worry about a feed problem. You didn't suddenly miss 4 episodes or anything. Not keeping them in a paywall or anything like that. I'm not doing anything like that. It's just that the airing of this made more sense. That's all. And that's it. So on that note, go watch Crime Wave at least once. But you know what? Maybe a lot of people actually secretly love this movie. That's great too. If you do, that's wonderful. But if nothing else, it's worth it for Brian James and Paul Smith because, goddamn it, whatever movie they're in, they're having a blast. And that's what's important. Third Venom movie? Hey, Tom Hardy's talking to himself. Again, seems like he's having a good time. We've talked about 2 movies where people are having a good time. That's fine. And then, the Batman's great. I've already reviewed it. I've already gushed about that. It's fantastic. And, outside of that, that's it. So whatever you do, enjoy your weekend. Sorry about all the banter. Don't worry. Next show, we won't banter anymore. I promise. Sure we won't. On that note, everybody, enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.